Well, what a night for Aston Villa. He's a happy man. And I tell you who else is probably very happy right now is the former Villa man, Alan Hutton, who was at Villa Park for us for TNT Sports this evening. And we can speak to Alan live now. Alan, what a night for your former club. They're into the Champions League quarter-finals for the first time in 42 years. What was the atmosphere in there like tonight?
It was truly amazing, I must admit. From the first whistle when the teams just stepped out onto the pitch, I just thought the atmosphere was great. The fans got behind them. But I don't think it was the best first half, if I'm totally honest. They looked a little bit tentative in times, and I thought Brugge done really well. But after the red card, going into the second half, I thought the substitutions were brilliant from Unai Emery, and it really opened up the game. And as soon as they got that first goal, there was that tension just left the players, left the supporters, and they just went from strength to strength. So overall, an absolute amazing performance over the two legs.
And once again, Alan, it's not the first time that we've seen it since January for Aston Villa, that those two signings, Asensio and Marcus Rashford, just made such a huge difference in that second half.
Yeah, I mean, such a huge impact. I mean, to have somebody with the quality of Asensio to come off the bench and put in that sort of performance. And even Marcus Rashford, I really thought that he ran in behind really well. He looked aggressive in everything that he wanted to do. He wanted to take on the fullback. And he's just playing with a smile on his face. And they link up so well. And I think if they want to go far in this competition or get top 4, top 5 in the Premier League and, of course, the FA Cup, I think they'll be a huge part of it. I mean, linking up the way they do, the goals, the assists, I think it's a marriage made in heaven, really, at this moment in time.
I'm sure you were watching the Liverpool game last night against PSG. That's who Aston Villa have got next, Alan. What do you reckon? Can they do it?
You can't wait. Yeah, well, I mean, the first leg is away from home, and you know what Unai Emery's like. He'll come up with some sort of plan, or it will have to be a master plan, I think, to get back to here, to Villa Park, where they're still in the tie and that they've got something to go for. So, look, I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is probably one of the strongest PSG teams I think I've seen overall in terms of the way the squad play. They fight for each other. They've got real killers, if you want, up front at the top end of the pitch. So Villa are going to have to come up with something. But I think it's really important for the first leg that they stay involved in the tie. If they can do that, come back here with the crowd and everything on their side, then possibly, well, hopefully, they can do something special.
Hi, Alan. It's Owen. First of all, congratulations on getting to a quarter-final. Obviously, with Unai Emery and his experience in winning, you know, not only kind of winning these knockouts, but winning trophies. And I think the squad depth that all of a sudden that Aston Villa have, you feel like you could possibly cause an upset? I think it's doable.
Yeah, and I think, fingers crossed, obviously. I mean, we know it's going to be very difficult. PSG, I think, are one of the favourites to win the competition. But I think when you've got such an experienced manager who's been there, who's done it multiple times at top European competitions, then the players will need to lean on him, and he's so meticulous in everything that he does that I'm pretty sure that he will come up with some sort of game plan. But then it's over to the players. They have to take that on board, do it to a T, and then hopefully they can do something. But look, it's a big ask. I think the two games against Liverpool, PSG were outstanding. So Villa will know that. We spoke to Tyrone Mings earlier on, John McGinn. They all said the exact same thing, that it was one of the best teams that they've watched this season in the Champions League. So they know it's going to be difficult, but there's always a chance.
There is always a chance, Alan, and we will all be watching. We already can't wait for that one. Aston Villa taking on Unai Emery's former club, PSG, in the quarterfinals. Alan, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time. Karen, Owen, let's look back at some of the key moments in the game. Alan mentioned it there in the first half, 17th minute, sending off Kyriani Saba, Karen, just for a foul on Marcus Rashford. At this point, Brugge are already 2 goals behind. After this, it was just an uphill climb, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see Marcus Rashford back. Great pass on, obviously, the goalkeeper there, but it was a big uphill climb for them. Damage was already pretty much done, really, from the first leg. So, look, again, great spot. I mean, you're trying to push forward, they're trying to high press, but when you leave players like Marcus Rashford with spacing behind and 1v1 with him, it's obviously going to be a really difficult moment for him, and it was the right decision sending off, and obviously that was again the uphill battle started for them. But like I said, I was buzzing with Marcus Rashford tonight. It was energy and pace, excitement, on the edge of your seat, and obviously he had a huge impact in the game tonight.
Yeah, he did. So at that point, Bruges down to 10 men. It was still goalless at half-time. Unai Emery then makes a change and brings on Asensio, and just 5 minutes into the second half, he makes a difference.
What a player. I mean, if you're going to make a loan signing in January, you couldn't make a better one. That's 7, I think, in 8 games for Aston Villa. What a player. Honestly, this guy can play as a 10, can play as a false 9, can play wide, but he's finishing. He's been an absolute breath of fresh air. Think about, Morgan Rogers, you could argue, has been their player of the year, but you get Marcus Rashford, you got Ramsey, and then you add Asensio into the mix. Look, he's just there. He's just alive. What a finish with his weaker right. I can't believe how good a window they had in January. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Were you expecting him to have this much of an impact?
When he was at Real Madrid, it looked like he didn't have that. I know he wasn't the quickest, but he didn't have that kind of explosion. Then he went to PSG and barely played. I think he got 7 goals in 42 games there. That's 7 and 8 for Aston Villa. He looks sharp, he looks smart, and he looks confident. He kind of has the experience that the other players don't have in this competition. I think with him and Unai Emery and Marcus Rashford, they know what it's like to win a knockout tie. Remember Marcus going to PSG and winning. So their experience in this will be massive, but you can't underestimate the job that Asensio's done has been amazing. He's been one of the January signings that's had an impact, but as you already mentioned, Karen, so has Marcus Rashford, and it was them two that combined. We've seen this already this season at Aston Villa for what was the 3rd goal tonight.
Yeah, they complement each other really well because, as we know, Rashford has that pace in behind, but that stretches defences and it leaves Asensio then to ghost into areas where he can and be free, and that's a nice little pullback, the connection between both of them. And you mentioned earlier, he can play in that pocket space, he can play out wide. It's just his football intelligence, that space there to run off the back shoulder. Yes, it's poor defending, but to hold your run, to wait, and then to have each other, that connection, to find each other. Like you mentioned it off air, I feel like they've played together a lot longer than they have. Yeah, and he looks up, he knows where he is. I mean, the way to pass is perfect. You can tell they appreciate playing with each other. Watching Marcus run off the ball, without the ball, running behind, has been amazing. But you look at that graphic there. I mean, he's not even a goal scorer. Do you know Asensio? So the impact that he's had, also the loss to Ran, Watkins went off at half-time, Asensio come on. And then it allows Marcus to play as a centre-forward. And then somebody else pops out wide. But I like the rotation, from the ability to change the team within the game is really unique. As you mentioned, those numbers, 7 goals in 8 games for Aston Villa. At PSG, he only got 7 in 47 matches, Karen. Is this just about playing in the right team, playing under the right manager? Yeah, and sometimes you need a little bit of a change and a freshen up and to prove yourself a little bit more maybe elsewhere. But you have to credit the manager. He's finding ways to get the best out of him and not always from starting positions. He's making a huge impact, and obviously for him it's been great and he wants to continue, but it is a massive game next against your team you're on loan from, a point to prove. And can you actually say, well, you shouldn't have loaned me out and I should be here with this group? So again, a very interesting matchup. And it's also Unai Emery's former club. So let's hear from the Villa boss now, who's talking to Becky Ives.
Unai, was that just a game well executed tonight?
Good evening. Always we were respecting the opponent. There, of course, we compete very well, but they show with us as well their potential. And today we started the match really a little bit under our expectation, to try to dominate more than them, to try to get good positioning with the ball. And they were dominating the match, not creating chances, but dominating. And when we had the superiority, when the player of them was sent off, of course was good opportunity to try to get again good balance, trying to dominate better than we did. But even like that, we didn't get it. We didn't play the first half like more or less we planned. But we spoke in the dressing room the first half, change something, try to change as well in our mind something to play better like we did the first half, and was completely different. It's not for some changes we did, it was more for the team how identify speaking together. The second half was in that moment something to change, but collectively more than individually.
He's doing a great job, and he's got Aston Villa into the quarter-finals of the Champions League. I'm sure there are Villa fans that are pinching themselves right now, Karen. Owen mentioned it when we spoke to Alan just a minute ago. The experience Unai Emery has in European competitions in particular Do you believe they could go all the way in this?
You're asking a Blues fan
I
here,
know.
Jules, every time.
I did that on purpose.
Villa fans are pinching themselves. I'm like, me too. No, look, I think he's done a great job, and I think he's an amazing tactician, but you're coming up against PSG, and I think they are another level. As much as I want the City to do well and for friends that support the club, I think this will be a stretch too far.
Can they?
Of course they can. I think, obviously, PSG, they've knocked out the best team in Liverpool, and they were the best team over those 2 legs against Liverpool. But the way that they play, PSG, and as open as they play, and they try and dominate the game, Unai won't mind that, because they'll be able to. You think about Morgan Rogers and Rashford and Asensio, Ollie Watkins, they got 4 perfect players for the counter-attack. Obviously, they're massive underdogs, but Unai's been an underdog almost in every game he's played and won these trophies. So, look, they're massive underdogs, but of course they can do it. They've got to believe.
That's what football's about, isn't it?
Exactly.
You've got to believe.